Night fell over the Plaza Hotel. In the bustling heat of the kitchen, the head chef stopped a young man who had just walked in. "Wait, I haven't seen you here before. Are you new?" The young man stammered in fluent French. "Good evening. Yes, sir. I started today." The new hire had blonde hair, piercing blue eyes, and a thick mustache. The chef looked him over. "What is your name?" "Simon Claude, sir," the young man replied respectfully. "I hope you enjoy working with us, Claude," the chef said with a nod. "I hope so too, sir," Claude replied eagerly. Moments later, Claude was in the hotel basement, moving through the shadows with a small flashlight. As he worked, he whispered to himself, "Where could they have put it? I've checked the entire basement and found no sign of Sterling." He returned to the kitchen, where the chef greeted him with 2 trays. "Where have you been, Claude? Take this dinner to Suite 3 and this bottle of wine to Suite 2. Adam, disguised as Claude, took the elevator to the secure floor. "First, let's take a look at this old man and his grandson in 3, he thought. Then we'll move on to the residence of Suite 2.
He knocked on the door of Suite 3. A voice invited him in. An old man with a completely bald head and a massive gray mustache lay on the bed, his eyes closed in what appeared to be a deep coma. A quiet young man sat by the bedside. "Are you new here?" the young man asked. "Yes, sir," Adam replied calmly. "Started this morning. My poor grandfather only wakes up for short periods. It's those sedatives the doctors insist on pumping into him." Adam set the dinner on the table. "Wouldn't he be better off in a hospital, sir?" The young man shook his head. "You know how stubborn the elderly can be. He refuses to go, no matter what." "I wish him a speedy recovery, sir," Adam said, slipping out of the room.
He immediately headed to Suite 2 and knocked. A rough, dry voice barked from inside. "Come in, damn you! It took you an hour to bring a bottle of liquor." Adam pushed the door open. Inside were 2 men, one tall with a pale face, the other short and obese. As Adam placed the wine on the table, his eyes caught a noticeable bulge beneath the tall man's shirt, the unmistakable silhouette of a shoulder holster. "Anything else, sir?" Adam asked, lingering. The fat man stared at him. "How long have you been working here?" "Since this morning, sir." The 2 men exchanged a look, and the fat man dismissed him with a wave. As soon as the door closed, the fat man turned to his partner. "Cut off my arm if that boy isn't a French policeman." The tall man grew nervous. "What do we do now?" "We move quickly," the fat man hissed. "We finish the job and get out tonight." 15 minutes later, Sarah heard 3 consecutive knocks on her door. She hurried to open it. "Claude?" The waiter lunged inside with lightning speed. He clamped his right hand over her mouth to stifle her scream and immobilized her with his left. Sarah struggled, trying to land a kick, but she froze when a familiar voice whispered in her ear. "Calm down, Lieutenant. It's me, Adam Smith." Sarah sat on a nearby bench, unable to stop herself from laughing. "I didn't think you were that good, R1. Your features changed so completely I didn't recognize my own partner." Adam reached up and peeled away the synthetic mustache. "It's basic tradecraft, Sarah, nothing more. A little blonde dye, blue contact lenses, and a few prosthetic hairs. The simplest form of innovation, yet highly effective." He sat across from her, his gaze intense. "The investigation. What did you find?" "Suite 2 is definitely suspicious," Sarah reported. 2 men are staying there. They aren't French. They're traveling on American passports." "I know," Adam muttered. "One of them has a sidearm tucked under his shirt." Sarah looked at him with astonishment. "How could you possibly know that? You were only in there for a minute." "The holster made a distinct imprint on his fabric," Adam said carelessly. "An expert eye doesn't miss the details." "Now, did the French police search all the rooms when Sterling first vanished?" "Detective's orders," Sarah confirmed. "Standard procedure. They swept everything, except for the suites currently occupied," Adam mused. "Suite 1 is a newlywed couple on their honeymoon. Suite 3 is the old man and his grandson. That leaves Suite 2. Early the next morning, Adam descended to the lobby. He greeted the receptionist with practiced ease. "I need to send a telegram to my firm in New York." He took a pen and wrote, "Agreement on goods not yet reached. Cargo has not left the carrier. Still stationed at the plaza."
He handed over the paper, along with 2 20-euro notes. "Send it immediately." Adam stepped outside to retrieve his car. He signaled the valet, his eyes scanning the Porsche. "Did anyone move my vehicle yesterday?" The guard shook his head vigorously. "Never, sir. It hasn't moved an inch all night." Suddenly, the guard found himself lifted off the ground by his lapels. Adam's grip was like iron, his voice a dangerous growl. "Listen to me, and listen well. I'm not playing games. I deliberately marked this car with a scratch before I checked in. This car is the same make, the same model, even the same plates, but the scratch is gone. Does metal heal like a human wound? Or are you lying to me?" The guard's eyes filled with fear. "Please, sir, your friend came by yesterday. He said it was a joke. He brought a replacement car. Same brand, same everything." "And he gave you a lot of money to look the other way, didn't he?" Adam hissed. "Yes, sir. Please." Adam shoved him away in disgust. "Get back! Call the bomb squad right now. This car is rigged. It's a rolling coffin."
30 minutes later, the area was cordoned off. Explosive experts crawled over the Porsche. The inspector marched toward Adam, his face reddening with frustration. "For the second time, Mr. Smith, trouble follows you like a shadow," the inspector barked. "How did you know about the bomb?" "I received a tip," Adam lied smoothly. "The hotel management says otherwise," the inspector countered. "No calls came through." Adam offered a thin smile. "Perhaps it was my sixth sense." The inspector stared at him for a moment. "You refuse to disclose who you really are, Smith, but I promise you this. If you get involved in one more accident, I'll have you in a cell." "That's your duty, Inspector," Adam replied. The bomb expert approached, holding a small, sophisticated device as if it were a fragile jewel. "You're lucky, sir. One press of the accelerator, and this car would have been reduced to scrap metal." The inspector raised a finger to speak, but Adam cut him off. "I'm not leaving Paris until this is over, Inspector. You know it, and the men who planted this know it. All the masks are off now. We're fighting with naked faces, and woe to the side that loses."
Adam returned to his room, his senses instantly redlining. He didn't hear the snap of the wooden matchstick. The silent alarm had been bypassed. Someone was inside. Adam breached the room in a single fluid leap, kicking the bedroom door wide. His suitcase had been ransacked. Standing over it was the tall enemy's operative from Suite 2. The man held a standard pistol, and Adam offered a cold smile. "You're going to shoot me with that?" Adam asked. "Aren't you afraid the sound of a gunshot will draw the police from the street? Why not use a suppressor this time?" The young man stepped back, his grip tightening. "Careful, Smith. I'm not kidding. I'll shoot at the first suspicious move." "Who's joking?" Adam replied. The man pointed at the telephone. "Get over to Suite 2 and tell Raymond to get up here, now." Adam shrugged and turned toward the phone. He gasped, "Oh my God, what is that?" The young man flicked his eyes away. Adam hurled the heavy receiver at the man's face, striking his hand and sending the gun skittering across the floor. Before he could recover, Adam was on him, delivering rapid, punishing blows. The operative fell onto the bed. Adam scooped up the weapon and leveled it at him. "Don't shoot. I surrender." Adam grabbed his shirt, voice like iron. "Where did you hide Dr. Sterling?" The man stared back, genuinely confused. A gravelly voice spoke from behind Adam. "Put down the weapon, sir, and raise your hands."
In one explosive motion, Adam released the man's shirt and whirled around. A shot rang out, not from the fat man, but from Adam, and the pistol in the fat man's hand was blasted into the air. "Who is this Dr. Sterling?" the fat man wheezed, clutching his numbed hand. Adam kept the gun trained on both of them. "One of you is going to tell me where Sterling is, or I'll find out which one of you is faster at bleeding out. Who wants to play?" "I don't know anything about a scientist," the young man cried. "I swear to you." Suddenly, hotel security stormed the suite. Taking advantage of the chaos, the young operative shoved through the guards and dived for the hallway. Adam attempted to pursue, but the security team swarmed him, pinning his arms. "I already told you, Inspector," Adam shouted as he was hauled into the corridor. "This gun belongs to that man. My actions were justified." Adam slipped out of the guard's grip and leveled one with a sharp punch to the jaw before realizing he was surrounded. Standing at the end of the hall, flanked by officers, was the French police inspector. He wore a thin, cold smile. All the guns we find in your presence are never yours, are they, Mr. Smith? The inspector asked. And you always have a justification for assaulting people. Tell me, do you have a justification for attacking hotel security? They tried to stop me from chasing a kidnapper, Adam snapped. The hotel thieves, you mean, the inspector replied coldly. These two are notorious American hotel robbers. We've been tracking them. You caught them stealing your bag, and that is the end of it.
Back in the suite, the inspector sat across from Adam. You are looking at charges of carrying an unlicensed weapon and assaulting security, Mr. Smith. Adam sighed, leaning back. They were caught in the act of burglary. As for the guards, the inspector cut him off. The hotel security heard a shot and responded. You were the one standing over two men with a gun. The lead security guard, the one Adam had punched, stepped forward. He glanced at Adam, then at the inspector. I waive the charges, Mr. Inspector. Mr. Smith is an excellent customer. The hotel management will not forgive me if I keep him in trouble. The inspector's eyes narrowed. He knew he was being played. He stood up, slammed the door for emphasis, then turned back to Adam. You've escaped my grasp this time, Smith, but next time— There won't be a next time, Inspector, Adam said with a polite nod. God willing, the inspector muttered. He paused at the door. Won't you finally tell me your true profession? Businessman doesn't fit a man of your talents. Adam smiled a dangerous, knowing smile. I'm a very dangerous businessman, Inspector.
Beneath the yellow flag in the enemy's hidden command center, the short-statured commander was in a state of fury. He paced the floor like a caged predator. No more excuses. I would not tolerate another failure, he spat. Sir, I told you, Smith is a ghost. He identified the vehicle trap before he even touched the door handle. His instincts are not human. The commander slammed his fist onto the mahogany desk, the sound echoing like a gunshot. The operation ends tonight. Dr. Sterling must be extracted from French soil before dawn. I will personally oversee the final phase. His pupils narrowed into pinpricks of cold light. I no longer trust any of you. We will use the private jet to move him to London first, then back to our home soil. Tell the team the countdown has begun. Tonight, Sterling leaves Paris, dead or alive. At the same moment, Adam was in Sarah's room at the plaza. Sarah looked at him with a mix of frustration and exhaustion. So, they were just ordinary hotel thieves? Adam, we've hit a dead end. We've lost the trail. Adam's brow furrowed. Ordinary thieves don't have the tactical discipline those men showed. Something isn't right. Then where is he? Sarah asked, her voice dropping to a whisper. Did Sterling just vanish like smoke? Adam leaned back, his fingers tracing the line of his jaw. That's what I'm trying to solve. He hasn't left the hotel. I'd stake my life on it. But if he isn't in any of the rooms— Suddenly, his body went rigid. He leaned in closer to Sarah, his voice a ghost of a sound. Someone is listening behind the door. Sarah's eyes widened. Adam rose from his seat with the silent grace of a panther. He gestured for Sarah to hand him her weapon. He crept toward the entrance on his fingertips, then spoke in a loud, casual tone to mask his movement. Perhaps a picnic on the banks of the Seine tomorrow will clear our heads, Sarah. He suddenly wrenched the door open, leveling the pistol at the figure in the hallway. The man stood there, unfazed, a sly smile on his face. It was the French police inspector. Are you going to try to convince me this gun isn't yours either, Mr. Smith? The inspector asked. Adam lowered the weapon, his expression tight. It's not mine, Inspector. It's hers. Of course, the inspector mocked, stepping into the room and taking the gun from Adam's hand. Possession of an unlicensed firearm, a golden opportunity I don't intend to miss. You're under arrest, sir. As they reached the lobby under police escort, Adam made a desperate move to stall. This will cause a major diplomatic incident with the U.S. Embassy, Inspector. My government won't take kindly to this. I'll take that risk, the inspector replied. Wait, Sarah intervened, sensing the urgency. Adam, let me send a telegram to the firm. We need a replacement to handle your business deals if you're being detained. Adam acted annoyed, but he saw the opening. He turned to the inspector. May I? I need to tell my company to send another man to close the deals I came to Paris for. The inspector hesitated, then nodded. Adam walked to the reception desk. A telegram for you just arrived, Mr. Smith.
the clerk said, handing him a slip. Adam read the coded message. We agree. Goods have not left. Keep trying to close the deal. He showed it to the inspector. Does this look like the work of a criminal? It looks innocent.
Enough, the inspector said, eyes narrowed. But you have the look of a professional, Smith. For all I know, this is a code for a drug deal. Just then, the wail of sirens cut through the lobby. Paramedics rushed through the gold-trimmed doors toward the elevators. What happened? Adam asked the clerk. It's the old man in Suite 3, Mr. Francois, the clerk replied. He had another seizure. His grandson, Jean-Louis, finally insisted on a hospital transfer. Adam watched the paramedics wheel a gurney out of the elevator. The old man was buried under blankets, an oxygen mask covering his face. As they rushed the gurney toward the waiting ambulance, Adam felt the pieces of the puzzle click into place with a violent jar. He snatched back the telegram he was writing. Forget the telegram. Sarah, move, now! Smith, stand down or I will open fire, the inspector yelled, drawing his sidearm. Adam ignored the threat. He and Sarah sprinted through the lobby, weaving through stunned guests. Hurry, we have to catch that ambulance! They reached the curb just as the ambulance pulled away, its tires screeching. Adam lunged for the Porsche, the very one the bomb squad had just cleared. Is that your car? Sarah shouted as she threw herself into the passenger seat. No, Adam said, slamming the car into gear. This is the car that was rigged. I'm using their own vehicle to burn their plan to the ground. Did you see the farce back there? Adam swerved into the Parisian traffic, the Porsche's engine screaming as he narrowed the gap between them and the ambulance. You mean that ambulance? Sarah gasped. Exactly, Adam shouted over the wind. The
Man on that gurney is Dr. Sterling. It was a brilliant move, using a medical emergency to slip right through the police perimeter. If I hadn't realized it at the last second, they would have vanished. Behind them, the inspector's siren joined the chase, but Adam's focus was entirely on the ambulance weaving through the streets ahead. The miracle was back in his element, and the real battle had only just begun.
The ambulance screamed across the outskirts of Paris, hurtling toward the suburbs at top speed. Glued to its bumper was the Porsche driven by Adam Smith, with Sarah at his side. Trailing them was a swarm of police scooters and the French inspector's sedan. Adam was hunting the ambulance. The police were hunting Adam. Inside the ambulance, the driver shouted in a panic. Jean-Louis, what is happening? You said no one suspected you. Jean-Louis looked back, his face pale. That man in the Porsche? He's a demon, a U.S. intelligence operative. He didn't fall for the ruse. The driver snarled. We're almost at the airfield. Once we get him on the plane, it's over. These fools won't be able to stop us. Adam, focused on the road, gripped the wheel tighter. They're heading for a plane. If they get him airborne, we lose him forever. He grabbed his sidearm and handed it to Sarah. When I stop the car, start firing. Keep the driver and his assistants pinned down. I'm going for the aircraft. In the distance, a private jet was already taxiing, its engines whining in preparation for takeoff. Adam slammed the Porsche into a controlled slide, stopping with a violent jerk. He leapt from the car before it had even fully settled, sprinting toward the moving plane with terrifying speed. At that same moment, Sarah took cover behind the car door, opening fire on the ambulance driver and the mercenaries who had spilled out to provide cover. Within seconds, the inspector's car and the police bikes arrived, swarming the tarmac. The inspector stepped out, pointing at the lone figure running toward the jet. "Look at him!" the inspector shouted. "What on earth does he think he's doing?" Adam was running behind the plane with wondrous determination, as if his entire will had been concentrated in his legs. The jet was gaining speed, but it hadn't yet reached takeoff velocity.
The inspector watched with mouth agape astonishment. "Look at that man!" The inspector yelled to Sarah over the roar of the engines. "He's trying to catch a plane on foot? That's impossible!" Sarah watched the scene with a knowing smile, her eyes never leaving Adam's silhouette. If anyone can do the impossible, it's him. Earlier, during the chase, Adam had performed a feat of marksmanship that still rang in her mind. While driving with his right hand at over 100 miles per hour, he had leaned out the window and fired a single brilliant shot with his left.
The bullet had found its mark perfectly, even as the Porsche bounced over the rugged suburban road. "Idiots," Adam had muttered when the inspector initially tried to block him. "You're obstructing a major operation. That ambulance is carrying Dr. Sterling. Have you ever heard that name?" The inspector had frozen. "Dr. Sterling? The world-renowned American scientist?" Adam had jumped out of the car screaming for them to clear the way. "Have you ever seen an ambulance take a back alley to a private hangar instead of a hospital? Use your head, Inspector." Thankfully, the inspector was smart enough to recognize the truth when it stared him in the face. He had sheathed his gun and shouted, "Follow them, American. We're right behind you." Now, on the runway, the Porsche had served its purpose. Adam was closing the gap between himself and the jet's wing. The wind from the engines threatened to blow him back, but he surged forward. "He's going to make it," the inspector whispered, almost to himself. "The madman is actually going to make it." Adam reached out, his fingers straining for the handle of the cargo hatch as the plane began to lift its nose toward the Parisian sky.
Adam was running toward the plane with a wondrous determination, his entire will concentrated in his legs. The aircraft had not yet reached takeoff speed. The police inspector watched with utter astonishment, shouting to Sarah, "Look at what this man is doing! He's trying to catch a moving plane! That's impossible!" Sarah watched the scene with a calm, knowing smile. "If you knew Adam Smith as I do, Inspector, you would never use the word impossible." The inspector let out a cry of disbelief, pointing at the runway. "Wow, look! He made a leap for the wing! He's on! Oh my God, the plane is lifting off! He's trying to open the hatch!" The aircraft had just cleared the ground when Adam wrenched the door open and hauled himself inside the cabin. The jet was a small executive type, seating 4 passengers. Inside, the short-statured man from the yellow-flagged building, Elijah, sat next to Dr. Sterling, who was still in a deep chemical coma. Elijah's face went pale with terror. "Monsieur Smith, let us forget our old grudges. But how? How did you find us?" Adam shrugged his shoulders carelessly. "It wasn't hard, Elijah. To be honest, I almost missed it until I saw the paramedics rushing the old man to the ambulance. My medical knowledge is limited, but I know that agitation fits in the elderly are rarely treated as high-speed emergency extractions." Adam drew his weapon, the movement so fast it was a blur. It was a brilliant plan. A young man stays at the hotel with his grandfather 3 days before Sterling arrives to establish a pattern. The fake grandfather has seizures, and you use your own doctors so no one discovers the trick. Once Sterling is kidnapped, you sedate him, shave his head, and apply a prosthetic mustache and makeup. He becomes the grandfather. Meanwhile, the young man who was playing the grandson simply
blends into the hotel crowd and walks out the front door. No one suspects a thing because the old man was there before the disappearance. Truly professional, but not professional enough. Eliezer wiped the sweat from his brow. "You are too smart, Monsieur Adam. Your intelligence will surely make you see the value of my offer." Adam smiled sarcastically. Eliezer continued eagerly. "What do you say to $10 million, cash, right here in this suitcase, and a parachute? You take the money, you jump, and you leave Dr. Sterling to us." "So," Adam said, "I get 10 million and a scenic jump over France, and you get the world's most valuable scientist?" "Exactly!" Eliezer shouted, thinking he had won. "I knew you were a practical man." Adam loosened his grip on the gun slightly. "Where are the 10 million?" Eliezer grabbed a heavy suitcase from the seat beside him and shoved it toward Adam. "There! You can count it! And the parachute is right behind you." As Eliezer turned to reach for the parachute for Adam, he felt the cold steel of the pistol barrel press against the base of his skull. "The U.S. government thanks you for this generous donation to the Treasury, Eliezer," Adam quipped. "But as for the deal, excuse me, I have to knock you out." With a precise, technical strike to the back of the neck, Adam sent Eliezer into a state of total unconsciousness. The pilot, sensing the commotion, called out without turning around, "Is something wrong, Mr. Eliezer?" His hands froze on the yoke when a powerful voice answered him from the cabin. "On the contrary, everything is finally going right. Do you want to return to the airfield, or do I have to take the controls myself?" The pilot attempted a sudden, violent maneuver to
throw Adam off balance, but Adam surged forward, striking the pilot's pressure point. The pilot slumped over, unconscious. Adam shoved him aside and gripped the steering wheel, pulling the plane out of a dangerous dive and banking it back toward the runway. On the ground, the French police inspector watched in awe as the private jet banked sharply and began a perfect, horizontal descent back toward the hangar. "He did it," the inspector breathed. "What a man! The plane is landing. This is the most amazing feat I have ever seen. He achieved the impossible." Sarah watched the plane touch down brilliantly and come to a halt. "I told you, Inspector, when it comes to Adam Smith, nothing is impossible." As the engines cut out, Adam stepped out of the hatch, carrying the suitcase of cash and signaling for the medical teams to recover the still sleeping Dr. Sterling. He looked at the inspector and Sarah and smiled. $10 million, a captured high-ranking operative, and Dr. Sterling rescued alive, Adam said. "I think it's safe to say the mission was a success." The inspector turned to Sarah, still shaking his head in disbelief. "Is he always like this?" Sarah smiled as she watched Adam approach. "Always."
Inside the secure office of the Director of U.S. Intelligence, the director picked up a copy of Le Monde. He read the main headlines aloud. French police inspector locates missing American scientist. U.S. Embassy in Paris holds ceremony to honor French inspector. The director lowered the paper and turned to Adam and Sarah. "This is how we have always operated. Success is attributed to others. Failure is a public scandal for us." "It doesn't matter who takes the credit, sir," Adam replied calmly. "What matters is the success of the operation itself." "True," the director agreed. "But did you see the small piece in the social columns of the same paper?" He flipped the pages until he reached a short blurb and began to read. "Military attaché Jules Eliezer returns to his home country following health concerns." Adam chuckled. "I don't begrudge him that. I'm sure he'd prefer a quiet flight home to a French prison cell." The director then turned to Sarah and looked back at Adam. "Now that the mission has been successfully completed, what is your assessment of Lieutenant Sarah?" Sarah's face flushed and her heart began to race. She was painfully aware of the mistake she had made during the operation. She kept her eyes fixed on Adam, waiting for the verdict. "For a beginner," Adam began slowly, "she is—" He turned to her with a rare, genuine smile. "Excellent." Sarah let out a long breath of relief, closing her eyes for a moment. "That's high praise," the director noted. "I thought you were going to be much harder on her." Adam shrugged his shoulders. "Perhaps she needs more training, but considering this was the first task assigned to her, she performed it brilliantly." The director shook hands with, "The Air Force thanks you, Adam. We are always happy to have you at our disposal." He then turned to Sarah, shaking her hand firmly. "Welcome to intelligence, Lieutenant." After Adam and Sarah left the office, the director turned to the general sitting beside him. "Did you see how he handled it?" the director asked. "We assigned him to bring back Dr. Sterling. He did the job perfectly and added $10 million to our operational budget as a bonus. Did you ever imagine that?" The general shook his head, a smile of respect crossing his face. After reading his report and hearing the details of a mission that took less than 48 hours, I can say without a doubt that this man deserves the name, the Miracle.
Don't forget to like the video and subscribe to get all the new episodes.